Imagine devoting your entire life to solving a puzzle, driven by a relentless desire to understand its secrets. But what if you found out that some of the most vital pieces had been deliberately concealed, locked away by secret societies? This is the enigma surrounding certain ancient Freemasonry texts, books written over a century ago that claim to reveal truths capable of shaking the very foundations of what we believe about Jesus Christ and the broader world around us. These texts don't just ask us to question, they demand it. They present a reality we may have overlooked, a realm of symbolism, hidden meanings, and spiritual revelations that defy the traditional narratives we've come to accept. What if understanding these truths could profoundly transform how we see ourselves, our history, and our purpose in the universe? It's like stumbling through life blindfolded, unaware of the dazzling, intricate world that lies just beyond your perception. These hidden teachings dare to lift that blindfold, offering a glimpse into a deeper reality. The story begins with texts like Mystic Masonry by J.D. Buck, a book written over 100 years ago. In this work, Buck suggests a radical possibility. The story of Jesus, and many other religious narratives, may not simply recount historical events. Instead, they might be symbolic representations of something far greater, something that transcends time and space, connecting all of humanity to profound, universal truths about the spirit, the cosmos, and our shared existence. Buck was not alone in these beliefs. For centuries, great thinkers, philosophers, and mystics have argued that myths, religious stories, and ancient rituals contain hidden truths. Beneath their surface lies a message about what it means to be human. Mainstream Christianity, as we know it, has traditionally told a literal story. It proclaims that Jesus Christ was a historical figure, a man who lived, performed miracles, and died for the sins of humanity. But according to J.D. Buck and certain Freemason teachings, there is another way to interpret these narratives, one that reveals a richer, more profound understanding. To grasp this perspective, we must explore how ancient cultures communicated complex ideas using symbols and metaphors. A dive into Freemasonry's history and beliefs. Throughout history, symbols have been used to convey meanings too profound for simple words. Take ancient Greece as an example. In Greek mythology, Prometheus is the figure who steals fire from the gods to gift it to humanity. On the surface, it's a tale of rebellion. But symbolically, Prometheus represents something deeper, the human quest for knowledge, enlightenment, and freedom from ignorance. J.D. Buck draws a parallel here. He suggests that Jesus, like Prometheus, might be less about his historical deeds and more about what he represents symbolically. Buck goes further, proposing that if all historical evidence of Jesus' existence were to disappear, the symbolic idea of Jesus would still endure. Why? Because Jesus symbolizes something intrinsic to the human spirit: compassion, transformation, and the divine potential that resides in every person. The shaping of Jesus' story into a literal narrative, however, can be traced back to a pivotal moment in history: the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. The Council of Nicaea and the literal narrative. The Council of Nicaea, convened in 325 AD by the Roman Emperor Constantine, stands as one of the most defining moments in the history of Christianity. This gathering of bishops and theologians was far more than a theological discussion. It was an event that would shape the future of Western civilization and redefine the relationship between faith, power, and empire. Constantine, who had recently embraced Christianity as a unifying force within his fractious empire, sought to create a singular, cohesive version of Christian doctrine. The goal was straightforward but profound: establish a uniform belief system that would eliminate factionalism among Christian communities and align the faith with the interests of the Roman state. At the heart of the council's deliberations were questions about the nature of Jesus Christ, his divinity, his humanity, and how these aspects coexisted. Was Jesus merely a wise teacher and prophet, or was he the literal incarnation of God? And if the latter, what did that mean for the stories of his life, death, and resurrection? The council ultimately decided to adopt a literal interpretation of these narratives. They canonized certain texts, such as the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which supported this interpretation, while excluding others deemed heretical, such as the Gnostic Gospels. The resulting Nicene Creed enshrined the belief in Jesus as true God from true God, affirming his divinity and his role in the salvation of humankind. This decision had profound consequences. By privileging a literal understanding of Jesus' life and works, the Council established a framework for Christianity that emphasized dogma over diversity of thought. The Jesus presented in the Nicene Creed became not just a spiritual figure, but also a tool of political and social cohesion. The cost of literalism. The literal interpretation of Jesus' story brought clarity and unity to the burgeoning Christian church, but it came at a significant cost. The mystical and symbolic dimensions of Jesus' teachings, elements that had been integral to early Christian movements, such as Gnosticism, were marginalized, suppressed, or outright destroyed. Gnostic Christianity, for instance, offered a profoundly symbolic understanding of Jesus. It emphasized personal spiritual enlightenment, the transformative journey of the soul, and the idea that salvation was a matter of inner awakening rather than external rituals or dogma. To the Gnostics, Jesus was not merely a historical figure, but an archetype of the enlightened human, a symbol of the divine spark within each individual. His death and resurrection were not just events in time but metaphors for the soul's journey through suffering, death, and eventual rebirth into higher consciousness. But these ideas were a threat to the centralized authority the Church sought to establish. A faith rooted in personal mysticism and inner transformation was far harder to control than one grounded in a uniform doctrine and hierarchical structure. As a result, Gnostic texts were burned, their followers persecuted, and their teachings labeled heretical. Over time, the rich symbolic tapestry of early Christianity was replaced by a more rigid literal framework that emphasized adherence to dogma over personal spiritual exploration. The survival of the symbolic tradition. Despite the Church's efforts to suppress alternative interpretations, the symbolic perspective never disappeared entirely. Secret societies such as the Freemasons quietly preserved these teachings, believing that the true power of religious narratives lay beneath their literal surface. To the Freemasons and other mystical traditions, Jesus was not just a man or a deity, but a symbol of profound spiritual truths. His life represented the journey of the soul, from ignorance to enlightenment, from suffering to transcendence. His resurrection was not merely a historical event, but a metaphor for the potential for renewal and transformation within every human being. This perspective aligns Jesus with a broader archetypal tradition, connecting him to figures like Prometheus, Buddha, and Osiris. Jesus as a symbol in Freemasonry. When viewed through this symbolic lens, the story of Jesus takes on a universality that transcends its historical and cultural origins. It becomes a reflection of the human experience, a guide to the inner journey that each of us must undertake to reach our fullest potential. The rigid boundaries of literal interpretation dissolve, revealing connections between seemingly disparate traditions. The crucifixion becomes not just an account of one man's suffering, but a symbol of the trials we all face on the path to self-discovery. The resurrection becomes a reminder of the potential for growth and renewal that lies within us all. This symbolic perspective invites us to look beyond the surface of religious stories and explore the deeper truths they contain. It challenges us to see Jesus not as an external figure to be worshipped, but as an internal presence to be awakened, a symbol of the divine spark within each of us. Archetypes and universal truths. The idea of Jesus as an archetype connects him to a broader tradition of mythological figures who embody universal truths. These archetypes appear in cultures and stories throughout history, representing the fundamental experiences of the human condition. Consider Prometheus, the Greek titan who stole fire from the gods to bring enlightenment to humanity. Like Jesus, Prometheus suffered for his actions, enduring eternal torment as a consequence of his defiance. But his sacrifice symbolizes the transformative power of knowledge and the enduring human quest for enlightenment. Similarly, the Egyptian god Osiris, who was killed and resurrected, represents the cycle of death and rebirth that governs all life. In Norse mythology, Baldur's death foretells a time of transformation and renewal, echoing the themes of hope and redemption found in the story of Jesus. These archetypes remind us that the challenges, struggles, and triumphs depicted in religious stories are not unique to any one culture or tradition. They are reflections of the universal human journey, a journey of growth, transformation, and connection to something greater than ourselves. Universal themes of transformation. At their core, religious stories are about transformation. They speak to the potential for renewal and growth that lies within each of us, offering a roadmap for navigating the challenges of life. The story of Jesus, when viewed through this lens, becomes a powerful metaphor for the human experience. It reminds us that suffering is not the end, but a necessary part of the journey toward enlightenment. It challenges us to embrace change, to seek out the divine within ourselves, and to live with compassion and purpose. Conclusion: a journey toward deeper understanding. By exploring the symbolic dimensions of religious stories, we can uncover a deeper, more universal understanding of their meaning. These stories become more than accounts of historical events. They become guides to the inner journey of the soul, connecting us to the timeless truths that unite us all. Whether we see Jesus as a historical figure, a divine being, or an archetypal symbol, his story has the power to inspire, challenge, and transform. It invites us to look beyond the surface of our beliefs and explore the profound mysteries that lie beneath. In doing so, we embark on a journey of self-discovery, a journey that leads us not only to a greater understanding of the divine, but also to a deeper connection with ourselves and the world around us.